and this is the point, is we've been bottled up for centuries by suppressing the subconscious mind. And if we can do amazing things with crop circles and remote viewing, all sorts of, the not subconscious can do lots of conventional things too, like great works of music and things like this. If we tapped into the subconscious more, it's not just us that are saying this, Joe. You know who else is saying this? Wired magazine. February '05, there's an article called Revenge of the Right Brain. And what are they saying in there? 4 years ago now. That if we don't shift into more right-brained activities, our economy is going to go downhill. Why? Because the left-brained activities can be outsourced. But right-brain creative sort of activities, left-brain activities being counting, logical, numerical, sort of counting.
Right. You
quantitative.
can't structure it as much. I mean, it's more spontaneous.
It's more
creative.
spontaneous.
It's creative.
And in our case, in the United States, we're still very good at creative enterprises, movies, music, and things like that, right-brain activities. Now, if we shifted more of our educational process towards working with the right brain, I'm not saying training the right brain. You got to work with it. It's got to decide it wants to work with you. Mm-hmm. But if you treat it right, it can treat you right too. And there's a lot that we haven't tapped into. The bottom line is we're only using a fraction of our potential. And this is what this says to me in terms of the crop circle shapes and remote viewing and these other topics that we're talking about. Even UFOs and ETs are not about UFOs and ETs. It's about us. Mm-hmm. And what it's telling us is there's some part of yourself that you don't understand. UFOs seem strange because there's a part of us that we're not looking at. It's almost like there's a closet. We've closed a portion of our consciousness off, and it's getting dark, and there's a lot of cockroaches in there. It's time to open up the door and shine in some light, because if we don't get to our full potential, we're just going to see more of what we see going on right now. You know, there's that saying that if we don't change where we're going, we're going to end up where we're heading. We have an opportunity to do that now, and the way to do that is from a very young age to have a lot more classes like art and machine shop and things that use your whole body, mind body. You know, the best engineering school in the world, ITT, is in India, and they don't even let their students use computers to do any of their projects. You have to do it all by hand. They're considered better than MIT, and it's not an accident. They make you use your whole brain, your whole body to do your engineering projects. You can't let a computer do it for you, because when you let a computer do it for you, you're relinquishing a lot of the intelligence to a machine. And so they get this. Point is, if we integrated this more into our society and accepted this as valid and valuable instead of treating it as second. When we were in high school, weren't we taught to see art somehow secondary to math or science classes?
Oh, yeah.
How about the kids that took
It was
shop?
almost like a fun thing to do.
What do we say about the kids?
Or music in the same way.
The music, the kids that took machine shop.
It wasn't as serious. And the things that get cut when the budgets get low are the more irrelevant.
What we're learning is the solutions to a lot of the technological, economic, and social issues that we're facing are going to come exactly from those kids that had that training. Who do you think developed all this technology we have around here, like computers? The people in Silicon Valley. Those guys who originally developed the computers that are now everywhere in our lives were doing this. Why? It wasn't for us all to become a bunch of geeks. It was so that there was another way to express creativity. That's what this whole point is about.
So the overriding theme here seems to be that there's an evolutionary process happening, a resonant evolutionary process happening, beckoning us all to evolve in certain ways. And the form it's taking, one form it's taking is in terms of creativity.
Yes, exactly.
And accessing our whole brain.
Yeah.
And then transcending from there. Now, we see more of this happening on a global level within the last 10, 20, 30 years. We even see, as maybe Kalaman said, the Mayan researcher, that things are speeding up. He's got a calculation that speeds up in a certain way. It seems to be happening that way. And I don't think it's just a result of the fact that I'm getting older, which is sometimes the reason why people are given, well, you're getting older, that's why everything seems like it's speeding up. Things are obviously speeding up, even from an objective perspective. So what about this nexus point, we could call it, this point that seems to be going towards? Some people have said 2012. What are your views on that? How does this all tie in to 2012?
Joe, I don't know what's going to happen in 2012. There's a lot of different points of view on this, and I'm certainly not qualified to make the ultimate judgment.
Well, forget it. Let's end the show right now.
Something might happen there. It could be just that the Mayans' calendar ran out there, or it could be indicative of a shift in consciousness. I don't know. We're going to be there. We'll find out. But
it's accelerating.
We're heading to a point where we need to expand the types of intelligence that we apply every day. It has to be a relational type of intelligence where we consider our effect on the whole system.
Then that's right brain stuff.
For far too long, we've considered our actions in a vacuum. We've treated nature like a machine where we can just suck all these resources out, and we don't consider the impact of what it does when we give it all back after we've used all this stuff. You know, about 95% of the stuff that's manufactured is in a garbage heap within 6 months. So we can't keep living like that by turning the earth into a dumping ground for our toxic waste. And I'm talking emotionally, too, and intellectually. We have to realize that we wouldn't be who we are without these plants and the microbes. Do you know that there's hundreds of bacteria on your skin that you can't live without? Thousands in your gut and in your mouth.
You don't want to get rid of them.
You don't want them. They do wonderful things for you. Science doesn't have a name for the majority of them. We don't even know who they are, but they do something important. See, we have to learn to appreciate all types of life because it's a system, and we all work together. It's all symbiotic. And this is where we're going right now. And this is, to me, you're talking about where we're headed, this nexus. I think the nexus is to realize that we're all connected, and all of our actions affect everybody. You know, this planet seems to be shrinking by the second. You know, it's because of the media and the internet, and whatever happens now, you know, you see how fast it goes around. It's incredible. The point is, whatever we do now has an impact. It's magnified more than ever before. And that means we need more awareness of what we're doing.
And that also means on every level, mental, spiritual, causal level, so that we have, our thoughts are also impacting. And our thoughts are becoming more known.
That is what we're
We can't hide internal psychological secrets.
Yeah, and this
either.
We can't hide the secrets, and there is, you know, we've been living, Joe, with this ideology of us and them for a long time. And I like what Obama said, you know, several months ago during the campaign. There's no them, it's only us. There is no them. The them is a convenient way for the mind and collective intelligence to push onto something else, something you don't want to see in yourself.
Right.
And we can't do that anymore. There's nowhere left to go. There's no place left to put the garbage. We have to deal with our own garbage emotionally and physically. And instead of saying we can just ship it somewhere else, ship it off to another country, you know, third world country, and sell it to them, they don't want it anymore. They're turning the boats back. We've got to realize that we live in the system. That whatever we do impacts everything. And to me, this is the big take-home message. Now, I don't really believe, Joe, we'll meet the extraterrestrials full scale until we're a little more grown up and we realize this. You know, they showed up in the 40s, apparently because we were exploding nuclear weapons in these test projects down at White Sands and other locations, right? And that's when they started paying attention because apparently nuclear explosions can affect all sorts of parts of the universe that we can't even see and understand.
That's the lore anyway.
That is the story.
We don't know. They've probably been here since the inception of the Earth.
But all of a sudden we can affect their worlds out there with our little play toys that are exploding in our backyard. Now, the most important thing is not for us to meet the extraterrestrials. It's for us to meet the inner alien, as I call it, to portions of ourselves.
To meet ourselves.
Yeah, and when that happens, I believe we'll have more of this. People I meet a lot in this field want to have this kind of mass contact, the mass landing, and so forth. We have to be ready for that, too, because unless we know even how to deal with each other on the planet, how are we going to know how to deal with people from another solar system?
I think it's like any new phenomenon. It's like it starts to manifest in individuals first, and then maybe there's a synergistic effect at some point, and then maybe the whole race is ready. But obviously people have been ready because they have been visited.
They have been ready, and those people that have been visited were able to deal with what you mentioned before, resonance. When we learn to modulate our resonance a little bit, we all do it all the time without realizing what we're doing every time we listen to music. Mm-hmm. But anytime you get emotionally involved with something, or you're changing your frequency slightly, when we do remote viewing, we're just tuning into another frequency of another object.
And we need to be ready to handle those higher frequencies.
Right.
In order for us to be receptive.
We need to take responsibility for our resonance instead of letting it wildly shift around without any sort of management, so to speak. We need to realize we can change our resonance. We can perceive other realities, other dimensions. These ETs are probably right around us right now. I'm not saying in this room necessarily, but I mean they're around, but we can't actually see them because they're at a slightly different frequency. I bet there'll come a point, with this convergence that you're talking about, where actually all of a sudden we'll see that they've been there the whole time, but our eyes...
Some people already can see them.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like that Mark Twain quote that you can't depend on your eyes when your imagination's out of focus. And, we really, unless we take responsibility for all aspects of our consciousness, grow up and start working with it in a very constructive way, positive way, I don't think that they'll see that we're quite ready to deal with them, especially not the fact that we have a lot of weaponry that could be potentially dangerous to them. We have to take responsibility for all aspects of our society and kind of live responsibly. But I think we're going there. I really do think we're heading there. One way or another, we're going to get there.